I spent the first 18 months out of 24 months building Identity Matrix, and it was absolute garbage. Almost no sales, no traction, no progress. So I want to talk about how I wasted $200,000 building Identity Matrix. Now, first, it's a SaaS platform and a failure that any startup founder in particular can learn from. Here are 5 reasons why it was a complete and utter failure. First of all, it was terrible product market fit. My initial goal for Identity Matrix was to provide the best phone numbers on the market, even comparable to Zoom info, and to take a Gmail and tell you who that was, which is really helpful for marketers to understand, okay, this person filled out an opt-in on my website, they used a consumer email, who is it? Now, it sounds good in theory, but the problem is going toe-to-toe with a company like Zoom Info is really difficult. They spend probably billions, but at least millions on their data quality. And their data accuracy is only about 65% when it comes to mobile phones. So it's an uphill battle to begin with. But then the other thing is I realized, wow, I built a terribly ugly product that is very limited in even the accuracy. So I spent a ton of money trying to work with data providers, all sorts of aggregators, et cetera, to build the best database possible. And I sucked. I am not a CTO. I am not a developer. I am wholly a sales and marketer. I can rant about any sales and marketing topic all day long, but when it comes to building a data-driven product, holy crap, that's something that was new to me. So number one, terrible product market fit. People didn't actually want what I was selling. Other companies were doing it too, and frankly, they were doing it much better. So don't go to market until you have your ducks in a row, the right providers lined up, the right contractors lined up, you name it. Second is don't build an ugly frickin' product. The very first version of Identity Matrix was literally just one box, and it was all it did was tell you, or rather it was an input for LinkedIn or a consumer email, and it would try to tell you who that person was or what their phone number was. It was the ugliest darn thing that you could imagine. It looked like a 10-year-old used no-code solutions to build it. The reality was I spent tens of thousands of dollars building it, and it sucked. Number 3 is once I got down this path of, I'm not doing this very well, but I can de-anonymize web traffic, which is a lot sexier and more compelling than what I was trying to build in the first place. And then eventually I switched over towards de-anonymize plus data quality. But before I did that, I was trying to really focus on features instead of data quality. I was worried about, how it looked to a certain extent. It can't look like crap, but I was focused on things like lead scoring or tracking page views or page intent and all these fancy pieces when I didn't even have good data in the first place. Bob Smith showed up on your website, but for some reason I was telling you it was somebody named Joe, or Stephen was on your website, but really it was my wife who lives in the same household. It was a very bad way of correlating the data or aggregating the data together. So I was giving people wrong information to begin with because I was so focused on having devs build out the sexiness of the product. Number 4 is I built what I wanted, not what was feasible. And this goes back to I really wanted, as a sales rep, really good phone numbers. Calling corporate phone numbers, calling headquarters no longer works. People, even if you get through to a direct line, people aren't checking their corporate phones like they used to. They're probably not even in the office. And if it forwards to them, they know that it's a sales pitch. So catching somebody with their cell phone number is the key. The other thing is I had a bunch of opt-ins all over my site, and I wanted to figure out who the heck this Gmail was. The problem is I was solving only my problem and nobody else. Now, fun little story. I remember building my first website when I was probably 16 or 17, and I remember Googling, how can I tell who was on my website? Google has that data. Google Analytics has that data, but they anonymize it. So how can you figure that out? A decade later, I figured it out. And it was way more complicated and expensive than I could ever imagine. I'm $200K in the hole for my own personal finances, drawing from my other company. and it was a crap show. And it's because I built what I wanted, not something that's applicable to a very broad market focused on, again, de-anonymizing web traffic. I built for me, not for the market. And then 5, and this is really going to ring true for anyone who's not a technical individual. I'm very technical for a sales and marketer, but if you're a dev, you're probably laughing because we both know that only goes so far. So knowing that, I went out, hired a bunch of devs, and I churned through devs like nobody's business. I hired a lot of really bad developers, and it's because I couldn't screen them out. I didn't know what to look for. I went based on how well they could communicate in English because I was hiring from Central Europe primarily. So without screening, I wasted tens of thousands of dollars on bad developers. The best thing that I can tell you, summarizing all of this, is 1, I'm going to go in reverse order here. 1, find a CTO, even if it's fractional at first, that can be your BS meter and pay what you need to pay for that. Eventually, I found a good developer who was my BS meter for everyone else that I hired. He was fantastic. Going back to building what I wanted instead of the market, if you don't know your market inside and out, you're screwed. Entering a new market is brutal. And at the end of the day, if I focused on what the market wanted, which is like marketing insurance, think about it. Ad costs are going up. Content costs are skyrocketing, especially when everyone has to change to making LLMs happy, ChatGPT as opposed to just Google. It's getting brutal. You want insurance on your efforts. You spend more. You change your content strategy. You want to know who every click is on your website, not just those that had the courage to fill out a form. Those people are still high intent, interested leads, in market leads. If you're in B2B, nobody's looking at your B2B website for kicks and giggles. 3 is focus on the core competency of your SaaS product as opposed to building out sexy features that everyone wants. Number 2 is you don't need to have the prettiest product in the world, but you do need to have a product that looks professional. And that's what I completely and utterly lacked. And then 1 is focus on product market fit. Now, what does that mean? 1, the market actually wants it and they give a crap. Number 2, it's a monetizable, scalable business model. And you can always build out additional functionality that you want later, but it's really focused on what the market wants and demands, and it's going to be easiest to sell. My initial approach to sales was beating down doors of Fortune 500 companies when I was selling HR consulting and just using brute force to get in. And it worked to a certain degree. I did 1.1 at 19, but the reality is that's not scalable. You need to have something that you can generate inbound and warm leads with. And when you send out your cold emails, getting a higher response rate. The only way to do that is to build something and position it in a way that your market actually wants. I wasted $200,000, probably closer to $250,000 on building crap no one wanted. I shouldn't have built to begin with, and I wasn't qualified to build until I hired the right people.